Okay, we're recording. Okay. Let me admit one more. Fantastic. Bill Gill just came just in time. So, hey, thank you, Maya, for the reminder. We are recording now. Is the heckling beginning? Is that Teresa? Thank you.
Does it mean we do or don't behave now that it's recording?
No, now it can get, now you can get as wild as you want. Well, hey, I just wanted to say that I thought it would be a real miss after meeting with you and diving down deep into your stories, not to come back to you and to find out how you handled 2020, how you pivoted, how you thrived, someone you met, just to give us another shot and another injection. And, I've included everyone who was a part of the podcast. Some made it, some didn't. That's okay. But I'm going to go through just really quick the people that we had. The first podcast we had was actually my I have 4 daughters, and my third oldest daughter, Maya, who's right there, did an interview of me just so people can get a little bit of a take of who I am. And it was actually her suggestion. She's like, you should let people know who you are. And I don't know if that was a good or a bad thing, but we had a great session. And so I thought it'd be great Maya's 18 years old. She's ready to go off to college this fall. And she graduated high school during COVID and all these different things. And so Maya, maybe you saw the list. And so welcome. We're honored to have you. And let's just hear from you, what you have to say in relation to how you handled 2020.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. So the kind of question on your list that I felt like my situation related to the most was the question about pivoting. And I'm sure you probably know where I'm going with this, but I don't really have a story to tell that's related to like business, but as far as my life, I definitely pivoted in a big way. And I now see that as very instrumental to my success. So last year, as you said, I graduated high school. And during my senior year, I thought a lot about where I wanted to be in the year to follow. And I had already kind of decided that I wanted to major in musical theater. And at the time, I was sure that I was meant to attend a 4-year college right out of high school. And ultimately, due to the pandemic and a number of other factors, I ended up just going and taking classes at COD for a year. And this allowed me to take a way more clear and kind of focused path towards finding the right school for me. And I have now been accepted to some really amazing programs to transfer to next year. And now all I really have to do is make a decision between some of the awesome schools that I've been accepted to. So I just feel, thank you. So I feel like in kind of changing the direction that I was planning on going in, although at times it felt like I was off course, I was really getting on the right course that was going to set me up for success in the future. So I'm really grateful that, of course, with all of the horrible things that came along with the pandemic, I'm grateful for, in a way, how it caused me to make that change in my life that ultimately led me to a really awesome outcome.
Fantastic. Thank you. That's great. Taking lemons and making lemonade out of it. That's great. Congratulations. The next podcast that we had, Andres Lozano, he actually, he when I heard his story, he's not with us here, but you can listen to his podcast. He's a guy that started in an Uber and was driving Uber and started his real estate career while he was sleeping in his car, and eventually rose up to be one of the top agents in Chicagoland. And he's with Coldwell Banker now. And so we just honor Andre, and we're so happy that he kicked off the podcast like February of last year. And then the next one was a gentleman that is on the call here. And this is an inspiring guy. I saw him I didn't know him as an agent, but he was an agent. Then I saw him as an office manager, a kind of SSM administrative manager for the South Loop real estate office for Baird and Warner, and then he rose up to be eventually the designated managing broker, and he's just totally kicking butt. And he's positive, he's professional, he just has a beautiful love for people, which is inspiring. And so Nate, we had a chance to talk, and so maybe just share with us, Nate Thompson, some of the things or something that you grabbed onto for 2020 that really helped you to get through the year and thrive.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for having me on the podcast. I think it's amazing. And clearly I'm here with a group of people that are also amazing as well. So that's awesome. So it was an honor to be a part of that. And a little bit about, I think what stood out for me the most in 2020, in the midst of everything that we went through as a country, as you know, here in the city of Chicago and all of that, the biggest thing was the dedication of my actual team. So my team here, the staff of the South Loop office, their dedication to figuring it out. I think last year was just a, up for grabs, what do we do type thing. And we were able to pivot and adjust and keep everybody together. So we found different ways, different tactics and unique ways to keep the team together, the agents together. We were able to grow our numbers. So we went from 77 agents to now 127. And that is over the last year. And I think part of it was the dedication between us coming together as a staff and sitting down and saying, what can we do for our agents? What do they need? How can we keep everyone connected in the midst of being virtual? And that was the power behind me being able to get up every day and see that dedication and see just the hard work that they put in to say, we're figuring it out all together, but we're still going to make it happen. And that was the part that's it's still inspiring to me, because we're still not fully out of it, but we're still going in strides. The numbers are still great as an office. The connection and the culture of the office is still strong. And that's because we never gave up. We never stopped. We just figured out a way to adjust and keep it moving, So that was the most inspiring part for me.
Nate, you also have, you guys as an office also gave back to the community, and maybe share just a little bit about that, especially during a time where things were really going crazy downtown.
Yeah.
You guys decided not to hide underneath your beds, but to actually get out there in the community and make things happen. So talk just a little bit about that.
Yeah, so being located in South Loop, our office covers the entire south side of Chicago. So a few things that we did, we gave out over 1,000 grocery bags to the South Shore community area. We went out there, we stuffed the bags with groceries, and then set up a time frame for the community to come out, and they were able to grab those grocery bags. And we did it, safely and socially distanced and all of that, but it was still a major impact on one of the hardest hit communities in Chicago with COVID-19. Outside of that, here in the South Loop, we did some cleanup events to where we walked Grant Park, we walked further south, right on Cermak, where Wintrust Wintrust Arena is, and all of that, to clean up the neighborhood. We wanted to do things that we were showing that we still care about our community. We still want to make sure that our community is clean, and we want to make sure people feel safe in those communities. We also hosted a socially distanced movie night in the park, which was the first one for the South Loop neighborhood, and we had over 50 people attend that. And
Wow.
We gave out popcorn and candy and things like that. So we're still in the midst of doing things this year and gearing up to, the weather's getting better, so we're gearing up to do more community giveaways and give back events, just to make it, again, we want the community. We have a message on our windows and the front window of the office that says, we are Chicago, we are South Loop, and we are strong. And we've had that up since March of 2020, and we haven't taken it down yet, because the message is still the same. We can get through it, and we're still strong.
Awesome. And Nate, what was the movie one of the Rocky movies, or what was it?
Actually, it was The Greatest Showman. So
The Greatest
Greatest Showman. It's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, fantastic. How positive.
Yeah.
Great for you. Bravo, man.
Thank you.
One of the real treats of this year for me was that I was able to make a new friend in Mike LaFido. And Mike has a luxury designation nationally. for agents, where he teaches agents how to operate in the luxury community, and very successful in that. And he broke some records this year with some record-breaking listings, and not just listings, but record-breaking sales. And so, Mike, welcome. And Mike really tells his story and goes through a lot of that on the podcast. You can check that out. And some of the keys from going from a teacher to washing decks, and then starting part-time as a broker, and then eventually becoming someone who is really an influencer for good. And he has an abundance mindset of not just hiding his tricks and secrets, but really sharing with them with an open hand. And that's inspiring to me as well, Michael. So Mike, welcome. And maybe just share with us, what's on your mind and heart, and some of the things that you did in 2020 to really bust through.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. And if you guys ever golf with Steve, check his scorecard. He will cheat to win the game. Maya, check your game. But before I go into that, Maya, first off, congratulations. So there's little things when you tell stories, when stories sell in real estate. So when you tell the story next time, tell people you went to UCLA, university closest to Lambert Avenue. I played football there. I played football at COD, and I tell people I played at UCLA first, university closest to Lambert Avenue. So anyways, 2020 was, as you guys know, an up and down, turbulent year in real estate. And I do kind of specialize in the luxury space. So from that standpoint, it was the healthiest I've seen in 15 years in the suburbs particularly. And I was just asked the other day if I think that's going to continue in 2021. And we're definitely seeing some activity in those upper price points. So I do believe, I think Cranes maybe did an article on, bigger is better in 2021. And, for years, the death of the McMansion articles Cranes was writing on, and now it's kind of flipped a little bit. So I do feel like those upper price points are healthy, amenities of multiple home offices and larger yards and kind of a backyard oasis are really important. So it's been 2020 was a great year, and we represent some really cool properties. For me, it's a little bittersweet because a lot of these clients, unfortunately, that are selling, they're fed up with the Illinois politics and the property taxes, and they're getting out of Dodge, and that's just that's a reality. I have a real good friend. I'm about to put a $4 million property on the market, and they're just so frustrated with a lot of things. So it's bittersweet from that standpoint.
Wow. Michael, how'd you stay positive during this year? Productive? Are there any routines that helped you get through it?
Yeah. So one of the things I always tell agents, I speak across the country, have a podcast. Actually excited, next month we're doing some live in-person events. We know half the agent population isn't going to be comfortable doing live events yet because of vaccines or, in person, and that's fine. But we're kind of catering to those that are comfortable. So we're doing an event in Atlanta, and then we're doing a live event in Napa for anybody that's interested. That'll be pretty cool. We're including lunch and a wine tasting. We're going to tour some mansions, and the actual event is being held at AXR Winery. So Steve, your question again, I'm sorry.
Just are there any routines that you picked up that?
Yeah. I mean, so one of the things I always teach agents all the time is if I were to unmute everybody, I would say, hey, finish this sentence with me. Garbage in, garbage, and most people say garbage out. Well, I believe garbage in, garbage stays. So like, I'm a big believer on, what you listen to, what you focus on expands. So like, I can't, as ignorant as this sounds, I didn't even know about this recent shooting in Minnesota. I saw some things on social media, so then I went on the news. I've just really, I feel like the news is constant negative. I feel like the news divides us. And so I want to stay well informed, of course, but that's just my personal belief. So I personally have a routine where, through podcast and through books and through inspirational stories, that's I think, what motivates me to be better, to be a better person, is positive stories, and positive information. I'm not naive. I think it's good to know what the heck's going on, but I just feel like we have so much more in common if we actually talk to our neighbor than if we listen to what the news tells us.
I love it. That's really, really powerful. Awesome. Garbage in, garbage stays. That's a keeper right there. Okay, so I want to jump ahead to, in the fall, we had a veterans series, and I want to get this young lady on because she has to leave at 9:30. But one of the most inspiration veterans in my life is my second oldest daughter, Shayla, and she is it was really her and another good friend of mine were really the inspiration to the veteran series. And I'll introduce some other veterans that we have on the call in just a short bit. But Shayla is a brand new graduate 2 years ago from Olivet University, and she's a nurse, and she graduated as a second lieutenant in the Army. And she is now in Fort Bliss at the hospital, serving as a nurse and an officer. And during COVID, moving there, serving on the COVID floor, got COVID, and is a tough cookie. She's just a tough cookie. I mean, you're in a foxhole. She's a gal that you want to have with you. She kicks butt and takes names. So Shayla, why don't you share with the group, what's kept you inspired and, just moving forward in a year that most people would say would be difficult?
Well, let's see. So I came in, I literally started working on the floor mid-October. So there was no like nursing regular patients. It was like, this is COVID, we have way too many patients. It was just like, I was just like in way over my head. So I was really, really challenged. But now that what month is it now? March, April. But now I feel like I am like totally prepared to take on anything. And so it's just been really interesting to see myself evolve from like a baby nurse, young adult, to this person who I'm like living here on my own. I got a dog, sorry if she barks, but so it's just been like evolving and taking on new things by myself while my family is back in Chicago. So it's just been a really awesome experience. But I think something I learned is not being afraid I've been very proud to just try and tackle everything on my own. And like that's just like not possible to be here by yourself. So not only like reaching out to family, but you guys are all business people. So, like reaching out to other nurses that are at different hospitals and seeing how they're handling it. Friends that I went to Army programs with and stuff like that, and not being afraid to talk to my leadership here. So it's been a really, really cool experience. It's just been crazy. I'm so glad we have the vaccine, and, things are starting to turn around here, especially I'm near Mexico. So it's been an interesting transition, but, but yeah, so it's been really good. I think it's been interesting to just watch myself evolve into an actual adult. So.
Awesome. Yeah, that's been great for us too, as well. So that's great. What you're saying is tapping in, leaning on other people, relationships, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, people are a little further down the road.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Well, we applaud you for your courage, and we thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Awesome and inspiring lady. One of the most.
I see the Navy sweatshirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for your
Hey,
service.
Thank you.
Hey, let's move over to Jack. So what was that's great. Jack served in the Navy, and Jack, I knew Jack was a veteran, but I didn't know until I sat down with him that he was on Iwo Jima when Apollo 13 crashed into the water, and he watched the astronauts poke their hand out of the capsule. Oh, Jack, wow, that was so cool to listen to. And Jack and Bill is Jack's managing broker, Bill Gill. And so Jack, why don't you're an amazing human being, father, grandfather, husband. A husband has started it all, right, and then father, grandfather. That's the order usually. Anyway, welcome to the session here today. And maybe just share with us just a couple things that really helped you get through 2020.
Interesting. Thank you for the podcast and Mike, your comments. I loved. Thank you for your service, Shayla. And Bill is the manager. Really, we have a great office. Interesting. 2020 we started in 2019. Excuse me. I did a different mailing at Christmas time or the holidays, and I made it more personal in 2019. So in 2020, my business kind of took a little bit of an upswing, even though the first 4 months was a little bit slow. More listings, more sales, and I had a successful, for my business, very successful 2020. The sidebar of what I actually do, I do some volunteer work. In 2010, we started a veterans program called Naperville Response for Veterans, and it's been very successful. It stalled a little bit for a fundraising mechanism for a veterans organization that does home repairs. And we work a 20-mile radius of Naperville, so we go up into Hoffman Estates, we go down into Joliet, almost into Kankakee, where Shayla went to school, Bourbonnais. But it's doing home repairs, whether it be mold, roofs, windows, and we're the fundraising mechanism, and then we hire professional contractors to do the work. That was our challenge in 2019. We lost the ability to do fundraising early on, and so we reshifted the way we were going to do business. In Naperville, they have a thing called the Rib Fest that happens over the 4th of July week, and they moved that to Romeoville in 2020. We, as Naperville Response, along with the Park District of the city, decided that we were going to hold a salute to veterans and first responders over the 4th of July weekend. And we did all the preparation in January, February, March, and then only to have it canceled in July. We still did the fireworks. We moved the site on that and partnered on that. And that was to be our big fundraising opportunity for 2020. It did not happen. So we went to a lot of small things, and we ended up in November around Veterans Day doing a reverse raffle. It was very successful. We gave away first prize of $5,000, and on the reverse raffle, you sell 500 tickets or 100 tickets, and you go all the way back to the last ticket drawn is the winner. That was a major win for us. We did very well in the fundraising of that. That was our challenge in 2020, taking Naperville Response for Veterans and working with that as well as doing my business plan for real estate. They kind of meshed together because I've increased a database that I did not have prior to. So I work with veterans. I try to serve veterans both in need and in housing. And somewhat it was successful in 2020. When I look over the year, the biggest thing that changed for me was family-wise also. We have extended family in Georgia as well as Indiana, and we did more Zoom calls. We did more in-person talking than we had in the past. So 2020, though it had some challenges, it brought more opportunities, and I think it helped with our family unit where we definitely have increased the fun time of Zoom calls, and they are fun times. So
Wow.
that kind of is the overview I have, Steve, of where I was in 2020.
Great, Jack. I appreciate it. We thank you for your, how many years were you in the Navy, Jack?
I was in 4 during Vietnam. And the sidebar of that, the USS Iwo Jima was a ship. We were made ship of the year. We came back from Vietnam with 2,200 Marines after Nixon had did a troop withdrawal, and went dry dock for about 90 days. And then they said, well, ship of the year, you're going to go recover the space capsule, Apollo 13. We were already in Hawaii when that took place, that they all of a sudden had some major problems with it. They set a sail down to north of Australia, and we did get to witness that capsule coming into the Earth's atmosphere, the sonic boom, and they made a movie about it. Even though the movie was great, the actual looking at the parachutes when they open, they were all red, white, and blue on the inside. You didn't see that in the movie. And seeing the Navy SEALs in a helicopter dive into the ocean to open the capsule and giving the thumbs up that they were alive and well. Nobody knew until then. Was pretty moving, and it chokes me up to talk about it. I guess I'm just proud of our country and proud of the things that we've been able to accomplish as a United States of America.
Awesome, Jack. And, in the movie, George Clooney played Jack. They tried to get someone that looked similar to Jack.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we had another great
Thank you, Jack.
opportunity we
Thank you
had.
for your service, bud. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, very inspiring. We had the short sale queen on our podcast as well, Heather Keller. And we had actually, and Heather's husband also owns Top Shelf Sports Breaks, which is all kinds of sports memorabilia, cards and such. And they're in Elgin, Illinois, very successful. And a funny story, when I listed Heather's podcast, I went to school with a guy named Scott Keller. And so on everything, all the graphics, everything, it said Heather and Scott Keller. And I'm like, I text her, I go, hey, the podcast is up. And she texts me back and goes, my husband's name is Chris. And I'm like, wah! So I took everything down and had to reboot and restart. It's so stupid. Anyway, Heather was just, was such a good sport about it. That it could have totally went a different direction. So Heather, thanks for your spirit. But I love Heather. Heather's with Keller Williams, and I love her passion for helping people who are losing their homes, her passion for moving them out of their home and getting into another place is just inspiring. And she is truly an expert. And she also has an abundance mentality of sharing with them. She wrote the book. When people say, oh, I wrote the book on this, she did write the book on short sales. And so, Heather, thanks for being on the podcast. And is there anything that you look back at 2020 and go, man, this was key for me, for the year?
Yeah. So can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Chris is not on because he just moved into his new large office. So yeah, he's crazy busy. But for me, 2020, I like Michael's response where he just kind of cut out the news because it's so negative, and I was getting trapped in the whole coronavirus updates, and it was making me crazy. And so I just stopped. I mean, I've always been a pretty positive person as it is, and I've always had the mindset everything happens for a reason. People meet for a reason. You may be going through a hard time for a reason. And so I've always said that, but I feel like I kind of put that to the side last year. And so I had to bring that back. And so for me, that's how I stay positive. I mean, I start my morning off, I get up early, I do a workout. I'm just overall a pretty positive person. And the people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, they're going through such hard times that I try to instill that positivity in them, and eventually they'll get through it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and Heather, you really struck me with your process of having a list of things to do. I mean, she broke her list out of her purse. It was color coded and box checked and all that. There's a method to your madness. And
I do have a method. Every Sunday morning I get up and I at one point in 2016 we had 60 listings and they were 90% short sales. So I don't have that many listings now, but because things are selling so quickly. But every Sunday morning I print off my MLS sheet and I go through every single deal to make sure I'm on top of it. And then I create this to-do list on top of that. Now, some people may say that's probably crazy, but that's what works for me. And if it works for you, then, don't change something that isn't broken, right?
Yes.
So I have this long to-do list. The to-do list has personal things on it. It has business stuff, things I need to remember. And then depending on what time of year it is, it's spring right now, so I use spring Sharpies, and I cross it out when I'm done. So for me, the key is, for me to get all these short sales done and come to where I'm at today is I'm extremely organized, crazy organized. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Heather. So we're going to cross over. Well, we appreciate just everything that everyone is saying. It's really awesome. We're going to cross over to the border to Wisconsin, where I had the opportunity to meet another veteran during our veteran series, Marty McMillan, and his loan officer partner, Dan Green. And Dan was in Marine, right, Marty? Yeah, and Marty served in the U.S. Army for 10 years, Marty? Marty's gonna unmute.
Hi. Yeah, he was 10 years.
Yeah, I called earlier.
Oh,
I think Heather's not muted.
yeah, that's all good. Yeah, so you were in the Army for 10 years, then you got out, and Marty pivoted to a career in real estate and has now, started part-time, then became a full-time broker and is still rocking it. And Marty also serves the local veterans. And so just talk a little bit about what you're doing for local veterans, Marty, and then get into something that was key for you for 2020.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a volunteer city leader for Bunker Labs, which is a national nonprofit, actually headquartered down in Chicago. And we help veterans and veteran spouses that want to achieve a dream of entrepreneurial business ownership.
Wow, that's awesome. So Marty, what for 2020 for you has been key? Keeping positive.
Well, I mean, it was just one of those things where you just have to take things the way they are, and I leaned heavily on relationships that I had formed in the past, like with Dan Green, and that's really all we can do at that time. Unlike Michael, I don't know anybody with $4 million homes that they're going to be looking to sell anytime soon. So for me, it was just leaning on lots of relationships and keeping in touch with people as best I could, and making sure my business was moving forward.
That's awesome. Hey, by the way, Mike's, I'm just put a plug in for Mike's luxury designation that you don't have to know everybody who owns a $4 million home to get the $1 million listings, And so that's something that LaFido is the expert at, is converting just the market and being known as a resource for the luxury opportunities. Thanks,
Yeah,
Marty.
One thing I wanted to add that I'm pretty excited about too, that when you interviewed me before, I'm a co-founder of a diversity designation called Certified Diversity Specialist, and so the two other co-founders, Julia Lachey, she's with Keller Williams out of Minnesota. She's taught a lot of courses, CE courses in Minnesota, as well as Trey, and so it's been very enlightening for me, as a Caucasian, hearing different perspectives, right? I want to get different perspectives, right? You've heard the various sayings until you've walked in someone else's shoes, and so being very sensitive to the time that we're in 2021, and so it's been great for me. So we launched this course. Our first training was March 30th, and I just want to. There's 7 modules talking about diversity, the color of real estate, some really fair housing stuff, that the history. I really encourage everybody to go through it because it was enlightening to me. Mm-hmm. But where I'm going with it is I created this course with the California Association of Realtors, for the California Association of Realtors, called Breaking into Luxury. And we've taken that content, so to speak, and we included it in the diversity class. So I taught the class, taught my portion on March 30th, and feedback for each of the presenters was given, and overall, they loved my energy, they loved the content. And and part of my story is, hey, I come from blue collar, I was the first person in my family to go to college. I got a 19 on my ACT, and you know, part of my story I think is inspirational. In other words, if Mike can do it, so can you. But some of the feedback from others on it was, you come from blue collar. For you come from blue collar, maybe compared to some of your peers, but to some of us, you come from, you know, white collar, or you had a little bit of an advantage. And so, and it wasn't a negative critique, it was just being sensitive, you know, to even that on my story. So now, you know, I'll say, hey, for me, I came from blue collar from Wheaton, Illinois, but to others, you know, I might have had the advantage. And so just acknowledging that. And so, you know, there's some opportunities there for me as a person from a diversity standpoint. So, you know, I just wanted to share that. That was kind of on my heart, because that recently came about just based on the comments. You know, for me, I was the first to go to college, and for me, I grew up in entry-level home, but that entry-level home in my market was a mansion to others. So I just want to share that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. Okay, so I'm considering this is the, however many Spice Girls there were, this is the next up deck for Spice Girl, Teresa Mueller, just because she's spicy. You know, Teresa, we interviewed Teresa and her attorney, real partner in business, Vince Aricchio, and that was a great podcast that talked about just the synergy between broker and attorney. But Teresa is a success story in her own right, where she started as an agent, really defined herself as a commercial real estate broker, and now has her own brokerage serving both residential and commercial, Trillium Real Estate. So Teresa, welcome, thank you. I appreciate just your great sense of humor. Teresa has a radio show as well on 560 AM. And when's that, Teresa?
Sundays at 8 a.m.
Sundays at 8 a.m. And are you with Vince on those?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And so tell me, what for you, Teresa, what were some of the keys for 2020 for you in thriving?
So I do also want to say thanks to the vets, because we have, I've heard Army, Navy, and I just want to tell a quick story. My dad, I had to put him in a veteran nursing home just before the pandemic started. He had a stroke, he had bleeding on the brain, he coded the hospital for 4 minutes, he was completely out for a couple of months, had no clue what was going on. The doctor said, just kill him. And I took his hand, and I said, Dad, can you understand me? Because he couldn't move, he couldn't talk, he couldn't do anything. And so I said, you know, feel my hand, squeeze my hand once if it's yes, or twice if it's no. So I asked him a series of questions, some of them like inappropriate politicals, because I know who he wouldn't vote for. I mean, it might have been comical, but the point is I knew he was in there. And so the doctor's like, you're really making a decision for him. He's never going to come back. Well, I put him in a veteran home and down in Manteno. And just by the way, as a vet, he failed freshman English at U of I. Back then, everyone got to go. And he knew he was going to be drafted for Vietnam. So he decided to enlist, and he went in the Air Force because he knew he wouldn't go in combat. The irony is he failed freshman English, and they sent him for a year to learn Russian. Go figure. But anyway, he is now walking and talking and eating and all those things. So
Wow.
Sometimes you have to follow your heart, right?
Wow. Amen, Teresa. Wow.
And so
Bravo.
now I've been saving his lemon convertible and fixing it. I got a guy that helps me fix every time something goes wrong. I said, Dad, I'm going to, let you drive. He's like, is my license okay? I'm like, well, I'm not sure if you can drive, but at least I know you could be a passenger. He goes, I'll be back. I've been working out.
I love it.
The one portion that you didn't include is I also do international real estate.
That's
and
right.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and how that changed my year. So I travel all over the world. I've been to international real estate trade missions, expos, etc. And I had been on a plane to Mexico, and I met this Bollywood actress in last January of 2020. And she told me about, I always ask people what their favorite book is. So you can tell me in your chat what your favorite book is or favorite podcast. Of course, it's Steve's podcast and then
Oh,
mine
yeah.
second. But tell me what your favorite, I always ask this of everyone. And she told me about this book by Joe Dispenza, Changing the Habit of Being Yourself.
Ooh, I
So
like
then I was supposed to go to France. Illinois Realtors was paying for me to go to MIPIM and hopefully bring business back to Chicagoland area, international business, etc. Well, it got canned a week before because of what was happening in Italy. And so in my head, I'm still going somewhere. So I looked on a map. There was one case of coronavirus in Nicaragua. So I decided to go to Nicaragua and see real estate developments. And I took that book with me. Actually, I did the audio book, I should say, of this Joe Dispenza, Changing the Habit of Being Yourself. And I'm going to say it was a little bit boring. It's all about the science of meditation and whatever. But at the end, there's an appendix that tells you how to meditate. And
Ooh.
this has been a life changer for me because I really had a hard time. I'm like, they say bhavana and do this and blah, blah, blah. I just couldn't focus, for, no pun intended. But I figured out it was a 4-week program, and I actually never made it totally to the 4th week, and I've been doing this for over a year now, but it allowed me to calm myself at the beginning of the day, right? To empty my brain, go through the process, be thankful for what I have. And I was able to meditate up to an hour by the end of like April timeframe last year. And so I thought that was very instrumental on a daily basis because everyone was feeling so frantic, and reminding people to not always spend all the time in here, right? Like feel yourself in your body. If you're getting stressed, if you're getting anxious, some ill feeling, it's not that we're not supposed to go through those feelings, but if it becomes too much, to remove yourself from your head and get yourself in your body so that you're not having that constant stress. And like Mike said, I do still listen to the news because that ignorance, is bliss, but I don't want to be totally dumb and not know what's going on. So I listen to a podcast called Up First. It kind of covers the 3-4 major national stories. And then that's it. And I feel like it's somewhat neutral. It's not politically motivated and how you're supposed to think. They just say, here's the news and this is not how. But then when I see my friends go on this, fringe of talk about COVID numbers and da-da. Hey, listen, I respect it, but I've been out and about every single day. If you want me to wear a hazmat suit, fine. If you want me to wear a suit, fine, I'll do it, right? But in the end, people became so obsessed and getting mad. And I felt like COVID was as divisive as Trump was, because in the end, it's like, okay, we all want to get better. Just be respectful of what other people believe and think. And, they're living in their own world. So anyway, the international side is I've now been vaccinated, I got my first dose, so I'm halfway safe, not responsible for the other half, but I am doing it. I really am not like a vaccinator type of person, but I had a doctor friend who said, I totally trust it. It's good to go. And I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go travel again. And I don't want a vaccine or not getting the vaccine to stop me in doing my international. So the other side, I am the managing broker. I sell commercial real estate, and you just had to be flexible with clients, right? That's another component is everyone's business was changing, right? So I was going to look for one type of space, and then it was another space, or they had to put the plans on hold because they didn't know, they had to see how this all was going to shake out. It was just really learning to accept the situation, right? We all were grieving something in the last year, and what phase of the grief process we're in. And I just got to acceptance as quickly as I could, right? Like, okay, I'm not traveling. I'm not wine tasting. I'm not going to Orange Theory. I'm not doing any of these things. I'm just going to accept it and move forward. So that's kind of my, did I overextend my stay a little bit?
No, Teresa, to me, that was very powerful. I love the meditation. I know you're back at Orange Theory, by the way.
I know.
Yeah, that's so great. And what an inspiration, just to say that there's a lot to learn from everything you've said. So bless you.
Thank you for having us. This is a great idea, Steve.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so we're going to try to finish up quick, but we saved some real rock stars for last. And, the last podcast we had for the year, I really considered to be a master class in career advancement, and overcoming obstacles. And we had Bill Gill, where we actually interviewed Bill in the trailer of his race car, or his race car trailer. And so he's a broker of $1 billion office in Naperville, a managing broker of $1 billion office, and top leader, just fantastic. But just the nuances of his time traveling up to the place he is, and how his appetite for where he's going is just humbling and inspirational. So Bill, thanks for being with us on the podcast. Bill also talked about how his son, who broke his neck young in life, and Bill got the call and had to pivot to really changing his whole life so that he could make his son even more of a priority than he was, and how his son is now thriving. It's just amazing, heartwarming story of victory. And I know the victories are still to be won in the future. So Bill, you're an inspiration, and proud to call you a friend. And so I'd love to hear what you did in 2020 just to really turn things up a notch, because I know that's what you did.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I'm going to share, anyone who knows me knows that this is fairly typical of me. I'll share some seemingly random thoughts that hopefully all come together in the end. But my congratulations on COD, and that's where I started my first 2 years, and then went to Northern Illinois. U of I wouldn't let me in. I wasn't smart enough. And we used to call Michael, we used to call COD UCLA as well, but it was university closest to the Lombard area. So, tomato, tomato. I just want to say about Nate. Nate helped me early on in 2020 through a really tricky situation that I accidentally put myself in, and I'm forever indebted to his helpfulness, his kindness, and his grace, certainly. Jack, as a clarification, I don't work for Jack. A person does not work for me. I work for Jack and all the other agents that are in my office when I show up every day. Likewise, want to thank everyone for their incredible, all those who've served the country. That I just, I go back and think, I wish I had done that in my life. What a noble endeavor, and it is greatly appreciated. I also, Teresa, would love to know what kind of car your dad has. I'm an avid car, boat, truck collector enthusiast. So at some point,
it's a Z4 BMW, and it's very fast. Saying nice. For a friend.
Nice. Love those. Love those. That said, I love all cars. Let's see, Steve, I want to say that you really have, since the day I've met you, have always had a heart of service. And I think that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but you've helped me at every turn. And the thing is, I know it's not just me, it's everyone you come across, right? And I would say that, and I'm not an expert on Christianity or religion at all, and frankly, I don't think that good at it. But if I think of someone Christ-like, I do think of Steve Kemp, of someone who's always giving back. Someone else who I know who is always giving back, who's usually very, very quiet about that, is back to Jack Person. He just gives and gives and gives with a heart of service, and not looking for any recognition ever. And when you realize all the things that he's done, it's truly amazing. So I think trying to tie this together, my father-in-law had a saying that said, we sit in a circle and we put our problems in, we look at everyone else's, and we take ours back again. And, certainly bad things happen to good people. I've kind of come to the conclusion that things just happen in life, and how we're measured is how we react to it. If something good happens, do you become greedy and arrogant and condescending and selfish, or do you become giving and kind and free up what you have, because you have the benefit of having had those blessings. When bad things happen, do you become angry and bitter and lash out and self-pity, or do you understand that others are going through things that are equivalent or worse than you are? And do you become someone who tries to become more compassionate in caring and aware? Steve mentioned when my son was injured, which was absolutely the most devastating time in my life. He is, in a wheelchair still. And sorry, I got up this morning and looked at a picture of him. And it was when he was younger and he just was ready to conquer the world and nothing was going to hold him back. He had a little bit of a setback yesterday and, he'd rather not be in this world. And that's tough, right? But the credit I give him is every day he gets up and he keeps fighting and he keeps pushing. And to tie this all together, that's really what we all had to do as a country, as individuals, in all the relationships that we had in 2020 and all the things that were going on. We had to remember that we had those relationships. We had to, and this is what I tried to do, is be grateful for all the things that were going really well in my life. And there's my daughter's favorite quote is there's every day is not good, but there is good in every day. And so it's focusing on those things, focusing on the relationships, trying to be the person that helps those when they need it, knowing that it's going to be your turn. And when you need it, that you're going to have all those people around. One of the things that's interesting, if you do truly act from a heart of service, as I know everyone on this call does, when it's your turn to be served, you have to learn to be a gracious recipient, and that's tricky. That's an awkward feeling for someone who's always giving. But I think 2020, and I'll say life in general, it's about things that people already said on this call: relationships. It's about teamwork. It's about connections. It's about coming from a heart of service. It's about giving back, and then getting up the next day and doing it all over again.
Wow, Bill, thank you. Powerful. Humbled by your words as well. I appreciate you. All right.
Any prayers, Bill?
Thank you.
Yeah. And what's your son's name, Bill?
Matthew.
Matthew. I know Bill has 5 children, and but Matthew. Okay. I thought, what could I do? Because you guys have blessed me so much with just your stories, that what could I do just to try to uplift you? Because I know you're such movers and shakers. And you have to recharge your battery, like Teresa said. And I thought, well, why? I had this unique opportunity to meet Marcus Ogden at the beginning of the year. We talked, we connected. Marcus did some things for Baird and Warner with the agents. I know he's been speaking to many different people. And Marcus has a unique story where he played Division I football. He then played in the NFL for 6 years, Marcus.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 6 years. Played, he was an amazing talent, played with some people that were amazing, then left, got into the business community where he was a successful developer, and then hit bottom, lost it all. And so when you were at the mountaintop and then down in the valley, then what? Sitting, I have that picture of Marcus sitting by the dumpster going, what now? And so Marcus, we're honored to have you. Thank you for taking your time. Everyone's going to get a copy. I'm going to get everyone a copy of Marcus's latest book called The Success Cycle. I listed that as my favorite book in the show notes. So anyway, Marcus, why don't you wrap up our call with just, the things that you are led to share with us.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Bill, amazing story. I'll be praying for your son. I think that's just remarkable that, he gets up every day, keeps pushing forward, and you're encouraging him. And your encouragement goes a long way. Trust me, my friend, because when I was at rock bottom in a different scenario, that encouragement's all I had. So it does make a huge difference. And Marty, by the way, do you know Dean Bundschuh, Marty?
Yes, he does.
Yep, good friend of mine. So I'm here in the Raleigh area. I've done speaking for Bunker Labs. He's a personal friend of mine. I spoke for them about 3 years ago at MetLife. So he's a good friend, and we could probably meet probably like once a month just to kind of catch up. So again, all the veterans, thank you for your service. I tell everybody, without the veterans, a lot of people fighting for the country, we don't have football or basketball. We don't have all the freedom that we have today. So in 2020, Steve, we really focused on a lot of the words. Oh, absolutely, Teresa. Freedom is not free. You got that right. That's 100% accurate. And so we focused, Steve, on pivoting. I've heard that word a lot by a lot of great people on this call today. And there's an acronym I have for pivot, which is poised, inspired, victory mindset, observing, tactician. And what we saw was clients were not holding live events. They weren't doing certain things. And so the success cycle talks about 3 major facets: ambition, drive, and hard work. So we created a plan of action around how we had to move in the new world. So we had to realign our goals, realign our mindsets, and we had to detour and we had to take tweaks in the road because things were happening different. So we got into more Zoom calls, more web access, things of that nature. The drive was always there. I have a saying, be inspired over motivated. To me, motivation is for the short-term gain or external forces, money, notoriety, fame, etc. And inspiration is all about pushing yourself forward for the greater good, breathing hope into people so they can have success. And that's what we did for our clients. And what we found is that the hard work really, Steve, was focusing on what we did best, which was serving our clients. And I have a saying, help turn people's goals into accomplishments. A goal is what you want to do, and accomplishment is what you have done. Great Jim Rohn quote, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments. Again, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishments. So last year, Steve, we worked for probably about 7 Fortune 500 companies. A few of them were Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs. Picked up some huge real estate, consulting clients, mortgage consulting clients, and we've done a lot for some large organizations. And I tell people, if you're going to sell in the new world, Steve, 3 things you have to do. Number 1, bring emotion. Most of my business has come off of LinkedIn, consistent posting. I share my stories. Don't feel sorry for me. Learn from me. I lost it all. I had $4 to my name when I moved to Raleigh in 2013. I filed a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, Steve. I lost my home, both my cars. I had $0. I had $400 to the dollar in my bank account when I moved to Raleigh in 2013. Took a job as a custodian in 2013, making $8.25 an hour after an NFL career and an 8-year construction company. I made $311.13 a week. I share parts of my life. I'm very emotional. I'm very emotion driven in my content. And because of that, they relate to me. They feel some type of connection with me, which leads me to the second part of this, how you sell, is building trust. Steve, I've known you now for 1.5 years. You reached out to me to do an event. I'm there. You trust me like I trust you. You need something from me, Steve? I'm going to do it. And you trust that. You know that. I tell you about in the beginning, it's more faith. And then as they build up the goodwill, it becomes a trust factor. But it takes time. I gotta tell everybody, trust is not hard to build. It just takes time. It takes effort. That's where it really lies. And the third thing is rationalization. You have to make sure that your product or service is going to be a logical investment for your client. At the end of the day, every emotional buyer has a touch of logic under the surface. So what they have to make sure is that what they're investing with you will help them bring an ROI or some sort of benefit to their business. So in the new world, Steve, as things are moving and shaking, getting back to normal, doesn't matter if you're doing this virtually, in person, bring these 3 factors of selling in the new world and never forget them. Bring emotion, which is your real story, be who you are. Build trust with people is a huge buzzword, but you can build trust with operational excellence, outpace, outsmart, outperform your competition. And third is just make sure at all costs that you rationalize and show a logical reason why people should take their money and put it with you. If you do those three things, Steve, plus you pivot and you have a strong mindset, no matter what you want to get done in life, you can get it done. Plain and simple. That's exactly how I went from making $8 an hour to now 19 Fortune 500 companies. One of my clients is the second largest supplier of ketchup in the world, behind Hunt's, who's based in Chicago, and they are absolutely doing everything I've been coaching them on, consulting them on. But if I can turn my life around from $8 an hour to what I'm doing now for big companies and consulting and written 2 best-selling books, all this other stuff, you can do it too. I'm no better than anybody else.
Wow. Well, that's power packed, Marcus. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions real quick? I know we're bumping up against time, but does anyone have any questions for Marcus? Football, success, whatever.
Football.
It's a great motivation what your words are. And it reminds me of, I don't know if everybody ever heard the story of Bob Love, the Chicago Bulls, number 66.
Yep.
He had a stuttering problem in growing up, and he was the leading scorer for the Chicago Bulls during the 70s and has many of the records that Michael Jordan didn't break, at least one for scoring. And when the game was over, they would never interview him because he stuttered, and he went through life stuttering. Him and his wife and the children, then he was traded to Seattle, went to the Supersonics, and got cut. And when he got cut, his wife divorced him, left him, and he fell on hard times, much like what you said, Marcus. He ended up working at Nordstrom's in the dining area, and he was basically picked up plates, and the Bulls would come in to Seattle to play, and they would go have lunch there. And as they had lunch, one of the days they were talking to Bob Love, and somebody spilled a tray, and he got down on his hands and knees and he cleaned that mess up in front of the Chicago Bulls players that were his friends. And as it be said, the CEO of Nordstrom's was having lunch also, and asked the gentleman, who is that guy doing on the floor there? And he goes, he's Bob Love, an ex-Bulls player, and those are the Chicago Bulls. He called him into his office, and he said, if I get you help, if I can help you stop stuttering, will you take advantage of that? And he said, absolutely. He rose and became a personnel manager at Nordstrom's. As the Bulls kept coming back and forth, the Chicago Bulls reached out to him, and now he's public relations for the Chicago Bulls. He's a public relations, and during the games, he goes to the high-rise privacy booths, and he talks to people. He takes photo ops. But if you ever want to read a book about somebody that was down and down, Bob Love, Chicago Bulls, take time to look at that.
Amazing.
I will. Thank you so much.
Yeah, in fact, we had a skybox at the Bulls game, and I got a picture with Bob Love. He came in. He is the ambassador of the Chicago Bulls right now. What an amazing, God bless him.
And,
Marcus.
And Therese says, to answer your question, Therese, it's the Bo and Luke Show. It's a podcast one of my clients have. They do a great job in HR, so it's called the Bo and Luke Show.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Any book that impacted you too, Marcus?
Yeah, it was called Act Like a Success, Think Like a Success by Steve Harvey. It helped me to reshape my mindset when I was at rock bottom, and Steve Harvey hit hard times. He was living out of his car. So very much an inspirational story was Steve Harvey's book.
He says that at the end of his show. He has all his audience stay, and he talks about, where he was, and that's why he gives that story to help, motivate people after a show.
I've got one here, and that's not a plug for the Chicago Cubs, but it is a book about a guy that batted about 190 and played 15 years in the major leagues. It's quite a story. It takes in the Game 7 in the 2016 series, but it's pretty emotional when you read it. And it is about perspiration, integrity. It's well worth the read.
Awesome. Well, hey, So first off, I want to thank everyone for their time today. And I thought, you know, after I actually sat for a little bit and was just thinking about, we did 17 podcasts and all the people. And if I had to like summarize it with a few key points of commonality of all of you, I thought, so I have these final kind of thoughts, that winning in life looks like what it looks like, and it's just some successful seconds, minutes, which lead into hours and days where you live life with intentionality and string it together over time. And then you look back and you are much higher up the mountain than you actually thought that you were. And so that's what I see in each one of you, is just stringing together some good moments over a long period of time. I love what Marcus says, that building trust it's not hard, it takes time. Living with intentionality over time breeds success. So that's the first thing. And I see that each one of you lived with intentionality over a period of time, and you're much higher up the mountain than maybe even you realize you were climbing to. So congratulations. I also see that success is not about doing everything perfect. In fact, it is more about leveraging your failure than doing everything right, and actually converting your failure to stepping stones, where you are able to learn from things that people call failure, and you're actually able to see how it's actually helping you go to a higher ground. Okay, so there's that piece of it, that failure and maybe not winning is a part of everyone's success story. Okay. And the last thing is that we are actually co-creating with our Creator. And I mean this, that God has given us, and I see it in you all, great power. And he doesn't work for us, although he does, but he works through us to shine light and to bless people. So God blesses people, but he only blesses people through people like you. Look at how each one of you are a blessing to so many different people. So God is using you to bless people. And so we are, in a sense, co-creating positivity and co-creating a difference that is marked in many different ways through all the stories that you're talking about. And so you're not waiting for the light. None of you are. You are all being the light. And by being the light in especially dark, by the way, the light shines in the darkest moments best. And each one of you are an incredible light in the world, and so necessary now more than ever. So I just appreciate it. And I was blessed to be reminded of it, week after week through amazing people like you, that the winning and success and all that has not stopped in 2020. It is more important now to live life with intentionality than ever before. And so I applaud you for not tucking your tail and running, but for taking the bull by the horns. So congratulations, everyone, really. Marcus, everyone, thank you. But Marcus, I especially thank you for the powerful moments that you shared with us and just how you selflessly gave to this group. And hey, just blessings to each one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Steve,
Great
have
job.
a great day, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks
Have a
for
great
including
day.
the family, Steve.
Bye. Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Bless you. See ya.